What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the secrets to being a great quarterback. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a QB and you want to know what you should do on a day-to-day basis in the gym and on the field to improve your skills, check out that very first link in the description below for our Ultimate QB training schedule. What this is a 30-day schedule where we break down all of the on-field drills quarterbacks should be doing and all of the gym exercises specific to the QB position you should be doing. We break down everything with sets, reps, and map it out in a daily, weekly schedule. So check out that very first link below, fellas, if you're interested. Let's get started with this video. So what we are going to be doing is we're going to be showing a clip of myself throwing, and then we're going to be comparing it to NFL quarterbacks making these same types of throws, and we're going to be breaking down the secrets to being a great QB. So number one, you have to be able to throw the ball somewhat deep, and you have to have the correct deep ball mechanics. So we're going to play this clip here full speed. I'm throwing this deep fade to the outside. I would say this is maybe about a 50-yard throw, I would say, but the main keys when you guys are throwing deep is being able to get your weight back. So oftentimes, so many quarterbacks do not get to this position where they have their back foot underneath their frame, they have their weight loaded on the backside. Because when you have your weight loaded on the backside, that puts you in a great position to where you can transfer your weight through to be able to get hip rotation and leg drive. And that's where your arm strength comes from. So if you guys want to throw a better deep ball, you shouldn't focus so much on the shoulder, on the arm. You should be focusing on your hips and your legs and being able to get to this good pre-throw position. So at the top of this drop, I'm doing a drop we call a shuffle hitch. And we're going to be looking at a couple examples of Tom Brady throwing deep here in a second. But when I do this shuffle drop, you see how when I start on this drop, I have a lot of weight on my front side. That's a common thing. When QBs are dropping back, maybe they're taking a three-step drop, shuffle drop, they end up with a lot of weight on their front side. But the problem is when they go to hitch up on this throw, they keep their weight forward. Now, when all of your weight is distributed on the front side, you cannot rotate your shoulders, you cannot transfer your weight because essentially your weight is already transferred. So to be able to get power on the throw, you have to almost rock your weight back. You start at the bottom of the drop here, get to the top of the drop here. Shift your weight back. So now when I can transfer from my lower half, I'm getting that front foot down. I can actually rotate back with my shoulders. Because when you get to this position where your front side is closed and your front foot is down, but you're transferring weight, your back foot is in a good spot underneath your shoulder, those hips can start to rotate through before the ball. And when that back hip drives and that ball trails behind your hip, that is the spot that you want to be. That is the spot that's going to give you more velocity, more power on this throw. So let's play this thing again full speed. And like I said, we're going to be breaking down some examples of Tom Brady throwing deep now. So shuffle hitch, make sure the weight shifts back so we can rotate through and get my hips to shoot through. So now, let's look at this clip here from Tom Brady. So he's throwing this deep post. Now, I want you to pay attention to the spot that he gets to when he actually throws this ball deep. I want you to look at where his back leg is, and I want you to look at his shoulder arc. So when he goes here, watch when he's throwing this deep post. Look where his back leg is. Back foot is under his frame. His weight is back. And now let's look at his sequence. Because remember, to be able to get power, to be able to get velocity, to be able to get distance on the throw, you have to drive from your legs and from your hips. You have to be able to separate your lower half from your upper half. A fancy term for that is called a hip and shoulder dissociation. So that means that pretty much your shoulders go back as the hips go through or as that front stride gets down. So let's take a look at this. So Brady goes back with the ball, but look where that front foot is. Front foot is getting down and his shoulders are loaded back. There is a separation between hips and shoulders. That weight transfer, that hip drive, his back hip being able to rotate through is what will bring that ball through. That is textbook right there from Brady. That is the exact sequence that we want to have if you guys want to throw a better deep ball. Because again, to be able to be a great quarterback, you got to be able to drive the ball downfield. You don't need to be a Patrick Mahomes type guy, throw the ball 80 yards, but you have to be able to make these throws. If you're a high school youth guy, you want to play college ball, they're going to expect you to make these throws. Let's play this thing again one more time, and then we're going to look at one more clip of Brady throwing a deep ball and talk about his hitch and how he's able to get his weight back using that hitch, similar to the example of myself. So watch this example here. This is perfect in terms of the hitch that you want to have to get your weight back. And he tosses an absolute dime. So watch his feet here in the pocket. You see how he gets to here. Where's his weight? Front side. What does he do with his weight? Rocks it back. He shifts his weight back. Enough quarterbacks do not do this. If you guys want to get more power on your throws, you guys got to take a three-step drop, try to have weight on your front foot if you're just throwing a basic three-step drop and hitch, and shift the weight back. Because that weight shift, you getting your weight to here, that allows you to transfer so much more weight. And when you transfer weight and that front shoulder closes, like we talked about in that last example, there is so much rotational power. There is so much power from his hips and power from his legs. This takes all the stress off of your arm, fellas, when you could get to this position. So many guys will throw with their weight forward, and they don't get any shoulder rotation. Their weight is already transferred, so they don't rotate at your hips, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Great example of Brady showcasing how a proper hit should be done to drive the ball downfield and throw it deep. Okay, so now, next thing to make a great quarterback, especially in today's quarterback world, in today's football world, is being able to throw from different arm slots. So we're going to be looking at this example of myself. I'm throwing to a net. This is like, maybe like a drag. You can think of it as a check down, but I have another guy right here coming at me, forcing me to change up my arm angle. So I'm dropping back. He's coming at me. I have to throw around him. This is something that every single quarterback has to be able to do in today's day and age, is throw around defenders. Now, after I break this down, we're going to show an example of Zach Wilson doing pretty much the exact same thing. So I go here. I'm working a concept where it's like I've got my eyes to the right side of the field. I'm coming back to my second or third read or maybe my check down, but I got a defender coming right in front of my face. So the key that I have to do here, and this is why you see guys like, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, Zach Wilson, all those guys that maybe have, a little bit of a baseball background, I guess you could say, are very good at this, because it comes down to trusting your hands on the throw. So anytime that you got a guy in your face and you can't throw directly over the top, you see how my arm slot is not even necessarily like completely sidearm. It's more of like a 3/4 angle, but it still gets the job done. It still gets around the defender. But the reason why we're able to do this is we trust our hands. Quarterbacks need to trust their hands. That's what baseball players do. Like they're fielding a ground ball, they're trying to turn two. It's all handwork. It's the same type of throwing sequence. It's the same type of mechanics. You are just changing up where your hands finish and getting to that extension point. So anytime that you try to change up the arm slot, you have to make sure that we stay disciplined with my front side. But the mechanics stay the same. So watch how I go back with this throw. I'm here. I'm transferring my weight. My front foot's getting down. And where is my front shoulder? My front shoulder is closed, just like a normal throw, just like that deep ball. It's the same timing of the throwing sequence. But now, when my weight is back and my hips are starting to drive through, I don't just come directly over the top. I change up the slot. I trust my hands and I throw around guys. Now, the mistake that QBs will get into when they are changing up arm angles, when they have to throw around defenders, is that this front arm will rip open. So they will go here, they'll go back with their sequence, but they'll take that front side and they will rip it way to the left, which prevents you from getting to extension. As quarterbacks, you want to think of your body like it is split down a midline. So you got a midline going down the middle of your body. Whatever the front side does on that midline affects your release point and affects your throwing point. So if you were to take, like, let's say, for example, your throwing side or your front side elbow, and you bring the front side elbow down, that would push your release obnoxiously high, and you would come down on the ball. Let's say you were to take this front shoulder, and this is what guys will do, and you over-rotate it around. So what do you think that does to your arm on the midline? That makes it go sidearm. But it's a different type of sidearm. It's that sidearm to where you can't get to extension. It's the sidearm where your release is out here, and so when you release the ball, you go around yourself. You don't get to extension, which is this point right here. But if you keep a disciplined front side, if you keep your front hands somewhere by your face, you keep your shoulders and your hips square, like you should be able to draw a square on the screen, that will help you get to that extension point, and that's where you could start trusting your hands. You could throw from a high arm slot. You could throw from 3/4. You could throw from sidearm, but you have to stay disciplined with the front side. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Just make sure, fellas, it's the same mechanics. We are just trusting my hands. So let's look at this example from Zach Wilson here. So obviously, same scenario. He's got a guy right in his face. I think this is obviously a little bit more challenging of a throw than what I was doing, but it's the same mechanics. Same mechanics apply. So watch how he's here. Front foot's down on the ground. Where are his shoulders? His shoulders are back. Let's play at full speed, but he's throwing around a defender. He's able to get to extension on this throw because he stays square. So again, same throwing sequence. Front shoulder is closed, front foot is down. Very similar to the example we saw from Brady. And again, fellas, everybody throws different. You got to understand that. But there are key consistencies that all these top-level guys, and if you're in the NFL, you're a top-level guy, because I don't want to hear the excuse that, oh, he plays on the Jets. If you're in the NFL and you're one of those 32, you're the 32nd best. If you're the worst in the NFL, but you start, you're the 32nd best quarterback in the world. So just take that into consideration. So we're here. His shoulder is closed. His front foot is down. Now watch what his front side does. His front side stays square. His hips and shoulders, you should be able to draw a square. That allows him to get to that extension point. He is just trusting his hands. He extends. That is where the accuracy comes from. But if this front side is over rotating, that arm will go across, and that is when we are not accurate, and that is when we cannot change up the arm slot. So that extension is where we want to try to get to. Let's play this thing again, full speed right there. Great job from Zach Wilson, trusting his hands, staying square, and getting to that extension point. Fellas, to be a great quarterback nowadays, you have to make sure that we change up arm slots. Okay, so now, next thing that all great quarterbacks need to be able to do is throw on the run. So let's play this clip here of myself throwing on the run, and there are two main keys that I want to talk about. So obviously when we are throwing from the pocket, remember we talked a little bit about throwing sequence. So you wanted to get your front foot. So what foot do you want to step with in the pocket? Your left foot, right? So you want, if you're a righty, it's your front foot. So not your throwing side foot, your front foot. You want that in the ground. And what do you want your shoulders to do? You want your shoulders to rotate, right? So on the run, it's the same exact thing, but it's the opposite foot because you have to get your hips to the target. So when you're on the run right here and you're trying to be accurate, you have to almost, don't think of it like a step with your front foot. Think of it as a step and you were trying to point your toes with your throwing side foot. Because when you can step, point your toes with your throwing side foot, that gets your hips to the target. That is the key. So many quarterbacks will try to make this type of throw. This is like almost like a delayed drag concept from like a tight end or a slot backside. And so what a lot of guys will do is they'll throw on the run and naturally they'll throw on the run, but they never step with the throwing side foot. That throwing side foot will be pointed towards the sideline. So guess what? Their hips are pointed towards the sideline and they throw across their body. That's why all of these old school quarterback coaches always say, oh, go run and attack the target. What you want to do is you want to get out of the pocket and you got to square up the target. You got to get your belly button to it, chop your feet, load your shoulders and throw. That's just not how the game is played anymore. There's so many guys that can get out of the pocket, be running full speed and still be able to flip their hips and throw. You have to be able to make the throws from all kinds of platforms. It's never going to be a perfect scenario or a perfect situation. So I go here, I point that toe because that gets my hips there. Now, when I point the toe, what do my shoulders do? My shoulders rotate back. So when that front foot gets down, where is my shoulder? It's closed. So now I'm in that position where my hips are driving through and I can produce torque. And that torque comes from your opposite leg. So your non-throwing side foot kicking through. Because when you could be here, shoulders closed, front foot gets down, you're in a position of torque, and that left leg kicks through. That's kind of like that icing on the cake, that snap through, and that follow through on this ball. So make sure we are very mindful of those mechanics, fellas, when I'm throwing on the run. Your throwing side foot points your toe wherever you want that ball to go. Some throws are easier than others, and you have to make sure that those shoulders can rotate as we take a step. We're going to look at another example here from Zach Wilson throwing on the run, but he's going to be throwing on the run to the weak side, but it's pretty much, honestly, the exact same mechanics. So he's going to the opposite side. Now, this is obviously a great ball on the run. He's moving with some speed. And again, look at the situation. He's being chased out of the pocket. He does not have time to square up, load his shoulder, chop his feet. I can't stand it when quarterback coaches will teach that. They will put guys on the run and they will always tell them, okay, you got to get your front shoulder pointed at the target. You got to chop your feet. Well, what if I'm being chased, coach? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's what they'll say because they don't know. They only work it in a perfect scenario because it's easier to teach when it's in a perfect scenario. It's harder to teach when you're getting chased out of the pocket, but there is a way to do it. So he's rolling to his left side. So this is his weak side, right? So watch what he does. He steps with his throwing side foot. Look where the toe is going, towards the direction of the target because he's throwing something that's trailing slightly behind, just like in the example where I was throwing, trailing slightly behind. Now, watch where his shoulders are when that front foot hits the ground. Closed. Shoulder is closed. Now watch what his other foot does. Watch what his left foot does. Kicks through at the target. So it kicks through at the target so he could stay in a square position. So many times when guys throw to their weak side, the only difference is the finish. They'll step the same, they'll rotate the same, but their non-throwing side foot, so their left foot if you're a righty, your right foot if you're a lefty, will almost kick towards the sideline. And so when that happens, your hips and your shoulders go towards the sideline. So remember, we were on that midline. What do you think his arm would do? His arm would fly out. So we have to make sure, fellas, you are stepping with the throwing side foot, shoulders rotate, and we kick through at the direction of the target so I can maintain that square position, stay on the midline, and be more consistent on the run. That is the key, fellas. You have to be able to throw on the run if you want to play quarterback in this day and age. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Wilson, rotating the shoulders, stepping with that foot, and getting the ball to his guy. Okay, so now, next thing you have to do to be able to play a great quarterback, or to be able to be a great quarterback, you have to be able to throw while getting hit. So this is kind of something that a lot of people don't think that you can teach. And I really don't think that necessarily maybe like the throw part is something that's teachable. But this is an example of us working a drill here where I got a guy with a blocking pad coming at me. And this is how quarterbacks can work on throwing while getting hit. You get a blocking pad, you get a pool noodle. You just go through a progression and have somebody hit you. Have a guy be in your face, because it's the only way you can get used to it is through repetition. But the main things that I can give to you in terms of advice when you're getting pressure, you have to maintain a good base and you have to make sure that we follow all the way through. So this is a situation that I used to hate as a player. Guy coming right down the pipe, gonna hit you, gonna put his helmet right into your freaking rib cage or in your chest and try to knock you down. And in high school, you don't get very many calls. It's not like the NFL these days. So you have to be able to throw through this. And the reason why I say you have to do this to be a great quarterback is you look at all the greats that have done. They can sit in there and they could sit in the pocket and make those throws. And we're going to look at an example of Trevor Lawrence doing this. And you watch his film with the Jags, who's maybe not the best team in the NFL, maybe not the best offensive line, whatever. He takes a lot of hits when he throws, and the accuracy that he has while he does it makes him very, very elite in that situation. And we're going to be looking at a clip here from him in a second. But you have to make sure that we have a strong base, because that's where your balance comes from. So you're in the pocket. Sometimes when guys are getting pressure, plays breaking down, their base gets super narrow. They lose this strong base. They lose having their weight on the back leg, like we talked about in the very beginning of this. And that screws them up. They just get in very narrow. They get kind of freaked out. They're uncomfortable in the pressure, and they don't have any kind of leg use or hip use in their throws. And that's why the ball will sail. That's why the ball goes in the ground, because they have no power. So we have to make sure that we have a strong base. So now, when I do have a strong base, I'm able to withstand the hits. I got to make sure that I follow all the way through. Don't be that guy that short arms it when you're getting pressure. You're getting hit. You see guys all the time, they kind of like chicken wing their arm a little bit. You have to make sure that we follow all the way through and that we extend to the target so I can actually get some kind of a ball there. It can be somewhat accurate, because when you're taking that hit, it's all about accuracy. I don't need a perfect spiral. I don't need any of that. I just need to be a catchable ball. So let's play this full speed, and then we'll get to that example of Trevor Lawrence and how some guys may fall away on this type of throw, which is why maybe that's not the best alternate like kind of option, but it works in this case, and we're going to explain why. So Lawrence is here. Obviously, he's getting pressure off the edge, and he's able to throw this dart over the middle. That is such a good throw. So when you're throwing while getting hit like this, again, he's got a strong base. He's not worried about the rush. He's not looking at the rush. His eyes are downfield the entire time he is scanning the field. So when he goes to make this throw, you see how his base stays the same. Throwing sequence is the same. Everything's the same. And you see how he's following through. He's extending. He's very relaxed with his follow through. He's not tensing up and shortening his arm. Now, you see how he kind of like fades away on this. Now, this is something that I've seen quarterback coaches teach, like, hey, like throw it and then fade away. I don't think that that's maybe the best thing to practice. I think a lot of that's like instinctual, because some guys will just sit in there and take a shot and they're still able to deliver an accurate ball. So they do this, like they teach this fadeaway. Lawrence does this fadeaway to kind of protect himself, because him getting hit in the back is much better than him getting hit in the chest. But you just have to be careful when you do this to not fade too early. I see it so many dang times, and quarterbacks get lucky and it's not repeatable. What they'll do is they'll sit there in the pocket and they'll have their coach run at them and they fade away after they throw it. But what they'll do is they'll short arm it with their arm. They fade too early and they short arm it, and then that ball is not accurate. At the end of the day, we have to be accurate, fellas. At the end of the day, we have to deliver a good shot downfield. So just make sure if you're getting hit or you're practicing it, because you have to be able to do this stuff to be an elite quarterback. You have to make sure that we follow all the way through. We have to make sure I have a good base. And then if you want to fade away, back away, fine, but follow through first. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Great example here of Trevor Lawrence throwing while taking a hit, keeping a strong base, and staying calm underneath that pressure. Okay, so last thing that I want to talk about here to be a great quarterback is being able to throw different types of throws. So we talk a lot about putting velocity on the ball, putting distance on the ball, but what about touch throws? And I feel like those aren't talked about enough. So I'm going to be showing an example of myself throwing this goal line fade, and then I'm going to show an example of Josh Allen doing the exact same thing. So I go back here, I land on my back foot, and I drop this thing over the top like it's just a quick fade right in the basket. So anytime that you are throwing a touch ball, it is super important that you get your weight back. It is literally, fellas, just like a deep ball, except you are slowing down kind of the like arm speed, if you will. I wouldn't even necessarily say that. You're just kind of taking things a little bit slower. You're not trying to rip the ball. So when you guys do quick game feet, and it's like a quick goal line fade, maybe it's like a man coverage corner, anytime you're trying to drop it in the bucket, you have to make sure that the top of your drop, top of your hitch, top of your quick game footwork is here. Your weight is back. Because what guys will do on quick game is they'll go back on their drop and they'll get all this weight on their front side here, and they don't have the ability to arc their shoulders. You need to get your weight back so we can actually get a good shoulder arc so the ball can get some touch to it. So many guys don't know how to arc their shoulders properly. They'll get back, they'll be in their base, but they have too much weight on their front side. I want you can stand up right now and try it. Stand with like 70% of your weight on your front foot and try to arc your shoulders. It's incredibly awkward. Now stand with 70% of your weight on your back foot and try to arc your shoulders. It's a lot easier, right? It's much smoother. So you're changing up the plane of your shoulders so you could have the same sequence. You see, front foot's down, shoulder is closed, but watch where the release point is now. It's much higher because I had that arc of the shoulder. So when you guys throw with some touch, make sure we get my weight back, make sure I have that arc of the shoulder, and so I can snap my wrist at the top almost like I'm shooting a free throw. That's how you guys can throw with touch. The foot strike's the same, the sequence is the same, it's just a different type of ball, obviously. So let's play this thing full speed, and then we'll show an example of Josh Allen doing the exact same thing. So now, Josh Allen, he's throwing this kind of like touch ball to his running back on almost like a swing, if you will. So same mechanics, right? It's just to showcase that what we're doing is the correct way. So he goes back. You see where is his weight? Back leg. What are his shoulders doing? Arcing. So now watch his release point. Front foot, you can tell it's getting down right about, I would say there, his front foot is getting down. So where are his shoulders? Shoulders are closed, so the hips can bring the shoulders through, but watch his release point now. The only thing that changes about it is the release point is higher. We had the shoulder arc, and we were able to deliver a different type of ball. Fellas, it's pretty much the same thing as a deep ball. Honestly, when you're throwing with touch, you're just taking a little bit off of it. It's the same type of sequence, but you have to make sure that we have a good shoulder arc because of where my back foot is located. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Allen throwing with touch and showcasing how you guys can drop that ball in the bucket. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, leave those in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.